What is going on, everybody? What is going on? It is Darian. We're back here with another show, another Las Vegas Raiders live Q&A podcast is what we're going to call it now for now on. I am your host, and I have my co-host Eli. What's going on, man?
I am down here still in South Carolina. Just living the dream, I guess one would say. It's still semi-quarantine here, but they're starting to open some things up. So while it's a little creepy seeing so many people without masks, at least it's outside and the weather has been fantastic. So I'm living all right down here.
And I see you finally got since you still in South Carolina, you got some Raider stuff with you now. Since you
Yes, I
know,
finally I finally got some Raiders gear. My wife was on the Amazon and said, "Hey, there's a couple Raiders shirts. Let's just get you one. We're going to be down here for a few more weeks anyway, so we might as well look the part on the live YouTube stream while we go ahead and record these podcasts because I felt weird. I mean, I was trying to wear gray and silver and black and stuff like that, but I didn't have a Raider shirt. So now I got this. I got the old school, actually, badass like.
oh yeah, you got like the '70s or
Yeah,
'80s
it's like the
type of.
'60s logo on the black. I think that looks actually pretty cool. So.
Oh, if they could go back to that logo for at least like a Thursday night or a Monday night, or have that as a color rush, that would be awesome.
Well, I don't know if you remember one of my, and I'm so glad that the Color Rush brought back those silver on whites. Those are my
Mhm.
favorite uniforms in all of sports. I think that they're so slick. But in 1994, for the NFL 75th anniversary, all of the teams kind of did that. They did like an old throwback, and that was before throwbacks were like really a big kind of to do. They did the throwbacks back in '94. The Raiders did the silver on white for the first time since 1970, I think it was, or '72, and they had the old helmet. So now the NFL will only allow you to, I believe, have one helmet the entire year. You can't change your helmet. You can change your jersey up and have a third, but the helmet has to stay the same. But for that year, they had the old helmet that had this logo, this old kind of like more of a white, white black logo, and it was sharp, man. It was really cool.
Wow, man. I mean, knowing I know the old school logo. It's just that I'm still you're older than me. You probably see more Raiders football than I did. So I mean, at that time. But shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. And shout out to Jesus. Shout out to Justin. Shout out to Anthony. Butcher's Block and Patriots Talk. What's going on, Bobby? Raiders for Life. What's going on? We're doing good today, man. Knowing that the show was supposed to be yesterday, but due to some technical difficulties, we were not able to do it. So that's why we're doing it tonight. And just give me a second while I share this live all over the Raider Nation, all the groups that I am when it comes to Raider stuff. So I'm just sharing it everywhere so people could come in and ask us those questions and have a good Raider show. Because I mean, it's not. I mean, it's a lot to talk about knowing that the teams, the rookies got their numbers, and we're gonna definitely talk about that. I think that's one of the first things that I want to talk about because I'm kind of excited about the numbers that most of these Raiders got. Most of these rookies got. Um, do you have the list of numbers, Eli?
I can bring it up real quick. Let me just kind of do that. But I mean, I know we can just go down the draft. I remember what the numbers are. We can just kind of go from the first pick to the last pick and kind of discuss it. But I believe that it was just Blog Baby or Raider Ramble or someplace actually kind of said, was comparing them kind of to other Raiders that wore those same numbers. And I was kind of curious, maybe even to some people that are in the chat, what Raider is synonymous with those numbers for you. Now, I'm sure a lot of us will have the same answers, but it's cool even to kind of bring some deep cuts from back in the day as well. But obviously, the first one that I'm sure is going to be one of the bigger selling jerseys in this upcoming season is number 11, Ruggs. Henry Ruggs is going to continue to wear the number 11 for the silver and black. What do you think about that?
I actually like it. I actually like it. Shout out to Nick Martin. He's on Facebook. He said, Eli, what's going on? Um, as far as number 11, I think he should keep wearing it. I mean, he was so successful with it in Alabama, so I wouldn't mind him wearing number 11. I mean, didn't no that was Seth Roberts that we had. Seth Roberts wore number 10 and
Right.
got 11, so that's the closest. Probably one of the most, probably the one of the. I think that's the most least number as a wide receiver for our team right now, right? Because I know Renfro is 13.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the lowest number for the wide receivers. I've never been a teen wide receiver guy, if you know what I mean. Like I've kind of, I'm old school, and I kind of really like the '80s numbers. But I think that this fits Ruggs. Oh, I didn't even see Nick Martin is here, man. That's awesome. What's up, Nick? I'm a really, I kind of like those, but it looks fast. I mean, even just more modern non-Raiders, but like, Deshaun Jackson makes that 11 look really fast, or that 10 look really fast. I think he was 11 for the Redskins. But my favorite 11, or at least the first 11 that I remember, and that is kind of always 11 in my mind, obviously is going to be Janikowski. That's the he played for so long for the Raiders, but the first person, for whatever reason, jumps in my mind is the old backup quarterback that the Raiders had for, it seemed like forever, Vince Evans. He was known for being 40 years old, and he was on the Raiders for like 6 years. So I think he was the oldest quarterback in the NFL for, probably 5-6 years in the early 90s when the Raiders had him. And he came in a couple games and he had a cannon of an arm and he could move even at like 43. He was like a scrambling quarterback. So for some reason, number 11, that's always who I think about.
Yeah, the first one actually come up to me is Sebastian Janikowski. That's just a legendary number. That guy had a boot on him for so many years with us, and it was kind of weird to see him in a actual Seahawks jersey at one point, and it was just so weird. But Janikowski is definitely one of the ones that I can say that really stood out to me when it came out to number 11. I don't think I could go any further back like you did, but the next jersey that I see, we're gonna go straight down the way the draft was. Our number 19 pick, Damon Arnett, will be wearing number 20. How you feel about this number wearing number 20?
Number 20, I like it as a defensive back number in number 20. It's a cool looking, clean number. I know Worley wore it last year. He didn't really, he wasn't really an impact player, so I certainly don't get really any sort of nostalgic feelings when thinking about him or any number 20s. Probably going back to Darren McFadden. He wasn't really with the Raiders for a long time. But he was a guy that, that for a couple years, at least, it was probably one of the better players on our offense and, probably one of the better 20s recently. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think Nambi wore 21, or did Nambi wear 20?
No, he was 21.
He was 21. I figured that, but I wasn't too sure. But I have to say, Darren McFadden definitely reminds me, and Worley reminds me. And Darren McFadden always got hurt, and Worley was just not an impact player. So I think he could definitely turn that number 20 into a legacy, especially if he, have a long career with us with the Raiders. But I can't be mad at that. I mean, number 20 is a very ordinary number to wear for a corner.
I think what's sorry to interrupt, but I think what's cool too about some of these, I think you hit the nail on the head, making that his legacy of a number. There's obviously going to be numbers like 75, Howie Long, 32, Marcus Allen, Jack Tatum, that you're always going to think about other Raiders. Some of these actually, some of these, really, these players are going to be able to make these numbers their own. I do think that number 20, despite the fact that McFadden recently was a pretty popular Raider, and I still see a lot of McFadden jerseys. I think that this is something that Arnett can make his own, and he's going to be the number 20 for the Raiders.
Yeah, I could definitely, I can't be more in agreement with you there, because Darren McFadden, for some reason, he did make the number popular while the years that he were here. And then after he left, nobody really wore that number to the best of their ability. And I think it's time for Damon Arnett to prove a lot of people wrong, because knowing that there's a lot of saying that people was a reach for the draft, and wearing number 20, you could prove everybody wrong at once, wearing that jersey and performing for us on the field.
Definitely.
The next pick, this is a very interesting number from Lynn Bowden Jr., number 33.
Yeah, he was going to be a running back. They said he was going to be a running back, so 33 fits what he's going to do, and it's fairly apt that he's taking the same number of his, probably the player that he's more or less replacing in the offense. But 33s, there really weren't a lot, but the one that I always remember as a 33, one of my favorite Raiders, I think a few weeks ago we were talking about kind of our favorite Raiders, Eddie Anderson, the safety from the late 80s, mid to late 90s Raiders. He was part of one of my favorite secondaries that I got to watch for the Raiders, which was Lionel Washington, Eddie Anderson, Terry McDaniel, and Ronnie Lott in 1991 was probably one of the better secondaries that the Raiders have had that I remember watching. But yeah, Eddie Anderson was one of my favorite Raiders at 33. What about you?
I really don't have any real Raider chap said Kenny King. What you mean Kenny King, chat? What you mean, bro?
Kenny King was a really popular Raider fullback that wore number 33 as well.
See, I go back to I started in '98, so I really don't know too many. I know I think Tyrone Wheatley wore 30, if I'm not mistaken. With us, I think he wore 30.
He was in the 40s. He was 47, but I don't remember many 33s. Washington was probably the one that I remember, and Branch, Tavon Branch, was also a 33, I believe.
Yeah, but I mean, knowing that how versatile a player that Lynn Bowden is, knowing that he might play receiver, but he's going to be more of a running back, I could kind of understand why they put him at 33. I thought they probably would have put him at a smaller number because, like I said, he reminds me of a Percy Harvin in some instance. But if you're going to primarily use him as a running back, 33 is definitely not a problem with me.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so we have another wide receiver, and he takes over. I think I don't like this number, man. I do not like this number at all because it gives it bad luck for our receivers. And Brian Edwards, we wear number 89. I'm not big on this number, man. I love the 80s numbers for wide receivers, yes. But this number 89, it just gives me some type of bad luck in some instance. I just don't know.
Well, I'm hoping that he immediately makes an impact so that so many members of the Raider Nation can go ahead and just get that nameplate and stick it over their existing Cooper jersey. I know my man Nick Martin definitely. I know my man Nick definitely can do that and continue to keep his really nice jersey. Just put that nameplate right on there. I think that would be great. 89s, Amari Cooper, he was the guy. I think that there was a couple tight ends that I can remember. The one guy going back to like the 90s, I can remember Alexander Wright was number 89. He was a real total Al Davis speedster that couldn't really catch the ball. He was totally just a track guy, but he's the only guy that really sticks out in my mind as far as 89. But yeah, I mean, that's who everybody's going to remember is Amari Cooper.
And I hope that we forget about Amari Cooper once this starts, because I'm so sick of I don't even wear my Amari Cooper jersey right now. I don't even wear it. So now, if I could change that to Edwards, I'm definitely going to do that, or I just go buy a whole brand new one and just burn the Amari Cooper one. That's just me.
There you go.
So the next one is Tanner Muse, number 55. Now, that's kind of for a linebacker, which they say they're going to put him as. That's the particular number, to have the number 55. But I definitely want to hear your opinion on that number, because I think Tahir didn't have that number. He didn't have 55.
No, he was 59. There is one 55 in my mind, and it is not Rolando McClain. It is Matt Millen, one of my favorite Raiders of all time, one of the meanest, toughest linebackers of his day. He won a couple Super Bowls with the Raiders, the Washington Redskins, and the 49ers. Total badass. Not a very good owner, not a very good GM. I'm sorry, but he was a great Raider linebacker. Probably if you don't count Khalil Mack as far as like being an edge rusher, I mean, he might be the last great Raiders linebacker, to be perfectly honest. I think he made the Pro Bowl his last year with the Raiders in '88. Again, I think I'm kind of pondering on my next jersey, and this is something we could talk about in another show. But Millen's always up there as a potential.
And just to let you know, they said Ronald Curry wore 89 as well.
That's right. Ronald Curry did wear 89. I totally forgot about that ridiculously sick one-handed catch he had at Denver. Wow, what a catch! I mean, his career wasn't full of accolades, but he definitely made some big plays. He was a big play guy.
And I can agree there, knowing that Matt Mullen is like a monster, was a monster with us. He was just one. I think he's one of the outside of like Howie Long, one of the greatest linebacking cores. Honestly, I don't think nobody else could wear 55 better than Matt Millen until see what Tanner Muse can do with that number. And then on top of that, I'm just kind of nervous on what knowing that they going to make him a linebacker, but he played a little bit of safety as well. But they look like since he has a number 55, he's going to be more of a linebacker than anything. But you just
Yeah,
never
I
know
think
what happens.
I think this really kind of cements that he is, they're going to put him at linebacker. And again, we've talked about Taylor Muse at length, and hopefully he can go ahead and contribute and make Matt Millen proud.
Yeah, definitely got to make Matt Millen proud. They said Ronaldo McLean was a freaking bust. Yes, Millen. Yeah, he was a freaking bust, but it happens. So he's not remembered by wearing that 55. Matt Millen is, and the last but not least, John Simpson, number 76, kind of a popular offensive line number in the NFL, which is not too shabby for me. But who is the person that you remember wearing 76 for the Las Vegas Raiders?
There's only, very much like 75 and Howie Long, there's only one 76, and that is Steve Wisniewski. Probably one of the great guards of his time, all decade team of the 90s. And one of the with a team that has such a great history at offensive line, he ranks up there as one of the better offensive linemen in team history. Super mean, just great, all pro, pretty much like every year you could bank on it. He was great. If he can make, if Simpson can be a starter, that would be great. And 76 is a solid offensive lineman number, but that is Steve Wisniewski's number.
That's a legendary number as well. One of the greatest offensive linemen to ever play this game. So definitely a great number. Raider for Life said he should have takes Burford's number. He's not coming back since he's been screwed from the NFL. Yo, SMIG say I'm chilling at the poolside. That is what's up. I wish I could chill at the poolside. Um, and then Raider Cap said I unstitched. He said he unstitched his McLean 55 jersey, and it took a long time. So people in the chat, I want to see what was your favorite
Oh,
jersey.
we missed one. We
Who?
missed cornerback number 41,
Oh, Amik Robinson.
Amik Roberts. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I didn't see that on the picture. They didn't show it for some reason, but no, he's number 41.
yeah, he's number 41, which you think is a weird number, but there was a couple Raiders, that wore that at least I can really remember. One is, Phil Vilpiano is just one of those legendary Raiders from the 70s. He had those big weird casts on his arm, all the stickum and grime all over him. He really is the throwback and part of the, imagery and aesthetic of those Raiders teams of the 70s. So I can't think of anybody that would kind of be more synonymous with this number. Though I will say I did enjoy watching while he did play Napoleon McCallum, for a few years for the Raiders. Had a pretty solid career as a backup running back until that horrific injury in '94. I don't know. You might be a little bit too young for that, but if anybody here in the chat watched that Monday Night Football game, that was probably one of the worst injuries outside of Alex Smith that I've ever seen, as far as in person.
Yeah, that's what Chap is saying. He's saying that it was nasty. Anthony said he has an autographed Raider football with his signature on it. That is dope. But and I do apologize for Amik Robinson. I didn't see it on the picture that I guess they didn't put it up there yet. But I'm looking forward to seeing what all these guys do with these numbers. But everybody that's in the chat, if you do would like to tell you what's your favorite Raiders jersey or what's your number one Raiders jersey that I'm gonna say my number one Raiders jersey that I want to get framed. Me per se, I would have to say, that's tough. That's tough. But I gotta go with my era of football, and I have to say Tim Brown. I would definitely have to say I'll go get a Tim Brown jersey, and frame it. I do want to frame all the ones from the 70s and 80s because I know they were legendary teams that we had in the 70s. So I do want to go back in time, like the Howie Longs and the Matt Millens and the Willie Browns and stuff like that. So, and Charles Woodson, the 24. That's what Jonathan Abram wears now, right? Jonathan Abram, he wears 24 now.
Yeah.
So yeah, even if I'll get a Charles Woodson 24 and a Jonathan Abram 24, it doesn't really matter to me. But I think me personally, from my era, I'll have to say Tim Brown.
Yeah, I mean that you can't go wrong with Tim Brown, and may I suggest, harkening back to what I was just talking about with those 75th anniversary Raiders jerseys, the 75th anniversary Tim Brown silver on white is pretty snazzy, man. It's pretty awesome as far as a jersey. I don't know why I never really, I mean, because I'm a bigger guy, I've never really been able to kind of like feel comfortable wearing like a really fast guy's jersey. I've always kind of gone the route of getting like a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman. Right now I have a Ben Davidson jersey and a Lyle Alzado jersey, but I kind of really want one of those silver on whites. And I don't know if I want to get an old player from the 70s that wore that. I might get a new guy since we'll probably be wearing one on, for our color rush this year. So I'll have to kind of see how the year develops and if I can really, get into anybody this year on the roster. I know that somebody in the chat kind of mentioned it. I normally don't get active players jerseys, to be honest. It's kind of like a bad luck thing. It's almost like, you get them before they're really established and then they just become garbage, or, like Khalil Mack, they get traded and then you end up hating it for years. So I wait until they're kind of retired to get it. But this year I'm feeling pretty stoked. So who knows? I might get a little zesty here.
I might go with if I do want to go and get a jersey right now out of the rookies, I will go get a Henry Ruggs and a Lynn Bowden. I don't know what it is about them two players. Them players are phenomenal. All the players that we have on our draft is phenomenal, and they can actually bring something to the team. But I think a Henry Ruggs jersey or a Lynn Bowden, knowing that 33 is closer to 36 and 36 is my favorite number, I would definitely go get a Lynn Bowden jersey.
Yeah, right on. I know that Juan says how many players we currently have on the roster. I think we are up to like 93 or something like that, or we're hovering above the 90 person limit right now. And I know that some people are probably going to have to get cut before the league starts. But yeah, I mean, we do have a whole bunch of players. A bunch of undrafted free agents are on that roster as well at the moment. So. It's gonna be tough at some of these positions.
Yeah, because you said it yourself before the draft even started. We need more depth at every position, and I think they actually listened to you because now we got like 90 something players on the roster. So and you had to narrow it down to 53. So it's going to be tough to cut a lot of talent. But we do have a lot of topics for y'all today. A lot of topics for y'all, and the jersey was one of them. Out of that we definitely got out of the way. So. Arden Key entering his make or break season with the Las Vegas Raiders, knowing that going into this training camp is going to be tough on Arden Key to try to make this team. But we said this before, and I think we did a conversation about this about Arden Key making it a make or break year for him, knowing how deep this this defensive line is. He has to figure out where he's going to fit in. So with me, I like Arden Key. I think he's a solid player, but he just haven't proven anything as the solid players on the edge that we used to seeing from back in the day. One of those dominant like we thought we were. So for Arden Key, knowing you have Maxx Crosby, Pharrell, Nasbit, you have all these people, going for your spot. Is there any way you might think about? I mean, I'm just saying from your perspective, what you think that if he doesn't make it on the D line, don't you think that he might go into the depth chart of linebacker situation?
I don't really know. The short answer is no. I don't think that the Raiders or really many NFL teams see Arden Key as able to kind of, play the linebacker spot off the line and actually be able to drop back in coverage and diagnose plays from that position. I don't really think that that's. I think he's really an edge rusher and primarily used as such. I do think that it's going to be tough for him this year. And I think that he's going to be a guy, and there's going to be a couple guys now on the defensive line, as we've said, like there's a lot of depth that they brought in for good reason. We need more pressure and more performance out of our defensive linemen. He's going to be a guy that is going to have to bust his ass in not only training camp or whatever kind of training camp or preseason before we even get to preseason, honestly, or he may be on the outside looking in. Gruden and Marianelli have already shown that they can be looking outwards for, a defensive line help. And that's a position where there's going to be a lot of cuts and a lot of players available after the 53-man roster cut. And if Arden Key doesn't bring it, he could be off the Raiders and they could be bringing somebody in that just didn't make a team, because at this point, his production is basically zero. I think he had a couple pressures, only one sack. And, he's really just not turning the corner. He still needs to get bigger physically, and he needs to show not just on top of the effort, but he needs to produce on top of that. So with guys like Maxx Crosby leapfrogging him last year, and Cleveland Farrell's apparently, primed for a really big year and a kind of a bounce back year this year. You got Nassib as well. I mean, I don't know. I don't see him being able to carve out a niche unless he really makes an impact. And I don't know. Do you see him being able to do that?
I can see him knowing that Rod Marinelli is our defensive line coach. I think they're going to give him a shot to see where he could do in like the first 8 games of the year with this rotation. And I think because you can always release someone during the season. That's you can always do that. So like with Arden Key, I don't see that same grit and same burst that I saw when he was at LSU. That is the reason why we drafted him, because we saw that determination to get to the quarterback. We don't see that now, and he hasn't proven anything to me. So, but I feel like Ron Millinari feels like he could change people, like change the defensive line down and help that front line get better. And if he can make it on the second or third chart of the depth chart of the defensive lineman, I think that's a win for him, and he could come in as a rotational player, because we all know he's not going to be a starter or a second type of player.
No, and honestly, like his rookie year, that was the whole thing. He showed promise, and there were so many plays where he was almost there, and they said, okay, as soon as he gets some bulk and he gets stronger, those plays where he's just missing the quarterback or he's not bringing the quarterback down, those are going to transform into production, sacks, bonus, positive plays for the defense, and it just never did. So again, I could honestly see him really being buried on the depth chart, and we'll see if he's not producing at all. We'll see what he does.
And I can't wait to really see what he does as well, because like he's the type of he just got to get bigger. If he can just get in the weight room and get bigger, he will be absolutely fine.
Yo, Watts Raider coming in.
I know. Shout out
Busting
to
me up. Shout out, man.
For the $5 holla. Thank you so much, Watts Raider. He said, just got my internet set up. We with good speed. Is on now. Is on now. We definitely need to have you come on the show, man. I see how you be breaking down.
I like it.
You be breaking down the players and stuff like that. Break it down film. Definitely got to have you on the show, man. Knowing that you got your internet speed up, definitely got to have you on there.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much my view on Arden Key at this point. We'll see how he progresses, in the in whatever form of off season we have.
All right, so I know we talked about the jerseys, but the question that we really didn't get to was, do we think that rookie class could live up to the numbers that they have, knowing that some of these numbers are legendary? Do you, out of all the players that got drafted that got numbers, who do you think the one person that's going to live up to the number that they have?
Well, I don't really know. I don't really know how to answer that in particular, but I do know, and I kind of said this already, I do know that I think that Arnett has the opportunity to really make that number his own, since it really was never a popular number worn by a legendary Raider or anything. And Ruggs can do that too, but there's a lot of Seabass jerseys out there, man. He was a very popular guy. So as far as being the most popular player wearing that jersey, I think Arnett has the best chance of doing that. And I think that if Ruggs can make people forget about Seabass, we're in a good position, because he's going to be burning it up and down the field.
I gotta go with Henry Ruggs. I gotta go with Arnett, but I think Amik Robinson is going to turn some heads with the number 41. I think he's really going to show, like, this is my number, and I'm going to put a signature on this number. And I feel like Arnett's going to be the same way, because it seems like D-backs in this league always have a lot more to prove than most offensive players, because D-back is one of the toughest positions outside of playing D-line, and then you got to go up against some of the best receivers in the game. And you got to really wear that number on your sleeve. Like, you really got to bleed that silver and black with that number. And I think Amik Robinson and Damon Arnett is going to come in and do that. And so is Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs is definitely going to live up to number 11. I just feel as though I just got to see where we put him at in the offense. But with that speed, I think we could definitely live up to. I think those three could definitely live up to those numbers.
Cool.
All right, so we could definitely go into the next question. We see, will Gabe Jackson be a Las Vegas Raider in 2020? Do you think, knowing that the trade deadline could come up during the regular season, and do you think he will be with us the rest of the year? Because you just never know with Mike Mayock what he's looking for in players, so you just never know.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. If I had to say it right now, I would say that I see a healthy Gabe Jackson playing 2020 football for the Raiders. I think that if he's healthy, Gabe Jackson is a very good guard. And if the Raiders aren't looking to make a big trade for, an Ngakoue, or, I don't think they're going to do this, but sign a big free agent like a Clowney. If they're not going to do anything like that, I don't see them getting rid of him just for the cap. Just for the cap reasons. Denzel Good is a solid backup. And I think that he played well when he was in last year, but he's not an upper echelon offensive guard. And Simpson right now, we don't know how he's going to perform. So it might be a little too early to say, but I mean, if we go into, the camps, and, we go into the preseason and Simpson's balling out and he's looking every bit of a starting guard, and the Raiders have some opportunity to make a trade or to sign a player that really beefs up another position group, maybe he does end up getting traded. But for as of right now, I see him staying and playing out through the year.
And that just leads me to my next question, because Chris Lentz on Facebook already put the question in there. Do you think we'll go after Aaron Rodgers in a trade? No. I don't see this happening, and I am tired of hearing about this. We're not going to get a almost 40-something-year-old man as another quarterback. It's just like another conversation about Tom Brady.
Well,
we're ready for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, that's not worth talking about this year. And, what I'm equally annoyed about is there's already a narrative about, the Raiders picking a quarterback in the first round next year. I mean, this is it's tiresome at this point. I mean, perhaps now you're right, but like, oh, great. fourth time's a charm. So it's very tiring. The Raiders are going to play 2020 with Derek Carr as their starting quarterback. There's really no point in discussing that anymore. It's really just, hey, did they do enough around him to make this team successful, this offensive team successful to win games?
That's a fact because every time a quarterback gets popular or a quarterback that's already popular made a name and they looking to get traded or they draft another quarterback. Oh, is the Raiders going to go after this guy? Is the Raiders going to go after that guy? I think we are in a new era of Raiders football where we're not going out and getting old players. We're not. We're just getting younger and we're getting veterans that's like 5 or 6 years in. We're not getting players at the end of their career and they just want to make a lot of money and wear that silver and black just to wear it. No, it's a passion wearing that silver and black. And I feel like our team is so young now, but I don't think honestly I don't even know if we have any players over what 10 years on our team right now.
I mean, I don't off the top of my head, I'm not sure who the longest term. It might be Derek Carr. Who knows? I'd have to look and see. And Gabe Jackson. Those might be the longest tenured Raiders at the moment, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I mean, as of this year, we're talking about this year. It's enough. Anybody that's talking about that really is reaching for clicks. And at this point, everybody in the chat, stop clicking on articles like that so people stop reading them or writing them, because at this point it's just tiresome. Let's go Raiders. Let's go Derek Carr for 2020. Let's hope that he performs, because if he does, the Raiders are in the playoffs.
That is a fact. And people say, and Washington Park say tank for Trevor. We're not tanking for Trevor Lawrence either. It's win now. And we're at a point where we need to win now and win on a consistent basis year after year. I don't want to go into this year having one good season and then boom, we go back to being losing. I don't want to do that. I want to have it on consistent, consecutive years where the Raiders are known for going to the playoffs and not just having this one special year and then we're just back to shits again. No, I don't think we are not tanking. We're moving forward. We improved from the year before, then this past year, and now we just got to get better and win more than 7 games. That's just what it is. So with that being said, all that Aaron Rodgers and tank for Trevor Lawrence, nip that in the bud. At the end of the day, Derek Carr is our quarterback. Take it or leave it.
Yep, that's where we're at right now. So
that's definitely where we're at. So we definitely got one of those topics out of the way. So the next ones that we got here is this is kind of speaking of Derek Carr. According to Raiders Wire, Derek Carr addresses the 4th down throwaways that, like he said, that's what we really talking about, really. Well, the 4th down or 3rd down throwaways, I mean, it's it's not really too much to talk about there. We know that the offense wasn't really meant to throw the deep ball in John Gruden with last year. Which it didn't really go that we really didn't go for the deep ball. Now you have receivers that can go deep, or you could throw them like a 5-yard pass and they can make it a long run. How you feel about Derek Carr being like kind of pissed off about talking about 4th down or 3rd down throwaways?
Well, listen, I'm sure that Derek Carr is frustrated beyond belief. They're already talking about drafting another quarterback to replace him next year. So I'm sure he's frustrated beyond belief. He did some bonehead plays. The 4th down, throwaways. Yeah, that's not the way you got to do it. I read a lot of that article in The Athletic, that interview with Vic Tafur, and he seems pretty pissed about things. Some things he needs to just realize that he did screw up. And, I think he does realize that. I think he's harder on himself more so than a lot of fans give him credit for. Yeah. I mean, honestly, man, I think that he knows that he screwed up. I think that a lot of the throwaways, again, he said it in that same interview, a lot of those throwaways on 2nd down, on 3rd down, those are coming straight from the top. He is told if the play is thwarted, if the play is snuffed out, you gun it into the ground immediately, and we live to play. Run another play, live another day. He would, John Gruden would much rather him throw that ball in the dirt. As a rule, that's what Derek Carr says. Now, on the inverse, I'm sure John Gruden would also hope and wish that he could extend some plays within the realms of what he has to do. But if something's snuffed out immediately, I think that's where you're seeing the John Gruden say, if something is totally diagnosed and you have nothing, there's no point in just trying to force it in there. Gun it to the ground, and we'll kick and we'll play conservative. John Gruden's a conservative coach.
He's a very conservative coach, but I think with all these weapons that he did get, these 3 wide receivers that we got in the draft, I don't think he could be. I don't know if he should be a little bit more conservative going into the draft. I think he should let Derek Carr sling it a little bit more. I understand that if there's nothing there, throw it in the dirt. I completely understand it because as a coach, I would have said the same thing to my quarterback. Like if there's nothing there, throw it away, or don't force it. I'd rather you throw it in the dirt or throw it out of bounds.
Exactly. And a lot of people are also saying, oh, he checks down so much. Well, reading this interview, and if you look at the plays, he's like, listen, a lot of those plays to Washington and to Richard and to the tailbacks, those plays are plays where John Gruden's like, okay, when you snap the ball, this is where the ball is going. So yeah, potentially somebody could have gotten open downfield or was about to get open downfield, but that play was always going to be going to Richard, to Washington. Listen, I totally get it. Derek Carr is not a perfect quarterback, and he certainly can improve in a lot of areas, but there's a narrative that kind of goes, and the truth is in the middle, they say, right? It's not, it's not all one way, it's not all the other way, it's somewhere in the middle. That's where we're at. Derek Carr knows he needs to improve. Derek Carr knows that this is probably his last chance to really get it done. So I think right now they've surrounded him with talent. He has the weapons. Instead of arguing about how good Derek Carr is on a level of 1 to 10, or if he's the 12th best quarterback, or he's the 16th best quarterback, let's just see how he can go and win with these weapons and John Gruden's offense. Because if we can't, then he's now no longer the issue, and we got to go ahead and see if we can put somebody else in there. But until then, 2020 is the year of Derek Carr and the Raiders. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So people saying that Carr is my QB. He needs to step it up this upcoming season. Glad Mariota is there to put pressure on him. I don't think it's put pressure on him, but I feel like it gives Derek Carr that competitive spirit that we missed before he got injured. If you look at that's what I think it is. It's just give him that competitiveness back, so Marcus Mariota can have Derek Carr prepared for week 1 or the regular season. Because if you come in there and give Derek Carr some competition, which he never had no competition as a backup quarterback in 6 years, so this is his first actual quarterback competition, I think Carr is going to step it up there. That's just what I see.
Yeah.
But we got 2 topics that we could definitely put into one here. Raiders cornerback Amik Robinson called Scouts nightmare leading up to the draft. But my question really is, will the Raiders move LaMarcus Joyner back to safety after drafting Amik Robinson or Damon Arnett? I think yes, because this is where LaMarcus Joyner made his money at safety. He never made his money as a corner. He made his money as a safety when he was with the Rams. So if you put him as safety with Jonathan Abram, and then you put Trayvon Mullen or Damon Arnett or Trayvon Mullen or Amik Robinson and put Damon Arnett in the slot corner, I think you got a lot of athleticism in that back end. And it's not too much pressure on LaMarcus Joyner as a safety. Now, will I think LaMarcus Joyner is a good tackling safety like Carl Joseph was? No. But if you look at his Rams footage as a safety, he played better than he played corner. So, me personally, I feel like it should go Trayvon Mullen, Amik Robinson, then Damon Arnett in the slot, and then you have LaMarcus Joyner as a safety with Abram. What you think?
Honestly, we haven't seen either of these 2 rookies play a snap against pro wide receivers or a pro offense. So it's a little premature to talk about any of that, right? We have no idea how Amik Roberts is going to be able to play against pro wide receivers. We hope he can perform. We hope Arnett can continue to perform, and we've all seen the tape that we're confident that they can, but we haven't seen anything yet. So I think it's far too premature to just say because they drafted this guy, now we're moving Joyner over. They seem very hesitant to do that. Now I don't know why, but they seem very hesitant to move Joyner over to safety. I mean, they did sign Demarius Randall. I mean, he's not a world beater at safety, but he's certainly starting quality safety. And if Abram can continue to be healthy, I think those are your two starting safeties. Eric Harris is going to be pushing Randall for that. But then right now you have a kind of a 3-person safety group, which I think is pretty solid. It's not spectacular, but a solid safety group. So if Joyner continues,
you said Jeff Heath too, right?
yeah, and he's there as well. So I mean that just adds depth. So there's no room really for Joyner right now in the current safety group as it stands. If all those guys do make the team, if Joyner continues to struggle, that's a whole nother story. And if he continues to struggle as he did last year at the in the slot corner, hopefully Amik Roberts or Arnett or somebody can take that position over, and then he might just be on the outside looking in, riding the pine until next year, where they can get rid of him with no guaranteed money, which would be disappointing because Joyner was one of the signings I had high expectations for last year.
And I think bringing Courtney Littleton over and knowing that he played with LaMarcus Joyner with the Rams as well, I think that helps out, try to get LaMarcus Joyner back to where he was when he was playing with the Rams. But I totally forgot about, Demarius Randall. I totally forgot about him. Him and Abrams going to be the starters. Or Eric Harris is one of the other. So it's just going to be definitely a good safety competition back there, knowing that LaMarcus Joyner might get some reps back there. Then you have Jeff Heath with Demarius Randall and Jonathan Abrams. It's going to be a lot of safety competition in the draft as well. So hopefully we can see some of Amik Robinson and Damon Arnett and see where we go from there and see who's going to be our starting corners. And we already kind of solidified where our starting safety was because we really don't have no rookies at safety. So we'll definitely look at that. So we just nipped, those two questions in the bud there. Now, according to Bleacher Report, they ranked the Raiders at number 18 in the power rankings of NFL offenses. So that's in the top 20. Mind you, this is after the draft. So being in the top 20 as far as offense, according to Bleacher Report, I'm not really too bad at this. I'm really not, knowing that, we picked up, Henry Ruggs. We already know Henry Ruggs is kind of like the pro-ready wide receiver that we have. Knowing Josh Jacobs will be coming back healthy. We got a few, running backs as well. So, with Lynn Bowden and the rest of the offense we got with Jason Witten and Waller and all of them, I'm not really too bad at this spot at number 18. How are you feeling about this?
Well, with the way the Raiders defense has performed historically over the last, however long I can remember, to be honest with you, if they're going to continue to be at not even a mediocre and middle of the road defense, the Raiders better hope that they're much better than a 19 or 18th ranked offense in the league this year, especially with all the weapons that they brought in. I think that whoever wrote this article or whoever did the rankings is obviously very low on Derek Carr, which, he doesn't win, so fine. And I don't think that they like John Gruden's offense. But I've said this a million times, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but if the Raiders perform better in the red zone and the goal-to-go situations, which Mayock specifically talked about, this offseason, they're a different offense completely. Those 10 play, 15 play, 10-minute drives are now that much more effective, being touchdown drives or even field goals at some points. So, I think that the Raiders need to have a better than middle of the pack offense to be a playoff team next year. And I'm confident that they will be.
Yeah, and I think this is only for preseason. That's why I'm not really too shabby about it because we just don't know what the rookies can do as of right now. But I think once the season goes on and see that their offense will evolve and evolve, that ranking will go up. and I can see that ranking going up from 18 to at least a top 10 offense by the end of the year. So I'm right with you. I feel like they don't respect Derek Carr enough. And I feel like 18 as of right now for preseason, we don't know what the rookies can do. I'm fine with that until the season starts. And once that schedule be revealed, which it will be on Thursday at 8 p.m. on the NFL Network. If Eli's up for it, we could do a special one there. To look at our actual schedule, see what we definitely have going on. Because it is coming on at 8 o'clock on Thursday on the NFL Network. So if you are up for it, Eli, just let me know if you're available for that.
Yeah, let me. I should be available, so we can go ahead and talk. Do a quick show and go over our. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, right? But if they're going to go ahead and release the schedule, it seems like they're pretty confident they're going to be able to get these things hammered out, and the games. Maybe no fans, but at least the games will be played. So
Yeah, and I definitely commend the NFL for still putting out the schedule, knowing all this pandemic is going on. But they said it will be a 3-hour show. But I'm really just looking forward to seeing what the Raiders are, and they breaking it down. It breaks down the upcoming regular season schedule division by division. So they're going by division. Hopefully, they start with the AFC first. I really
yeah.
don't want to go through the NFC.
Well,
So
the one thing I will say that they just announced is that they will not be playing any games internationally this year.
mhm.
All the games will be played in the United States, and obviously that's because of the pandemic that we're experiencing. International travel is going to be really difficult, and I'm sure just a whole nother level of annoyance to try to get teams safe and sound back and forth from into Mexico and to the UK. So, that's something that, they're going to continue to do that, obviously, in 2021.
Yeah, I can't. I'm kind of excited that that there's no games overseas because those overseas traveling problems and people like they be exhausted during games and stuff like that. Yeah, we know the schedule drops Thursday. Gridiron Blitz. Shout out to Gridiron Blitz. He's definitely a good big Detroit Lions fan. So shout out to you for coming on to the chat. Really do appreciate that. And we will be live streaming that as well. So hopefully the Raiders don't have a tough schedule, but I really think that we are. Knowing that the NFL can stand the Raiders, they always give us one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. So I would not be surprised if they have us. I mean, I just hope they don't have us on the road for 4 or 5 straight games that they did last year.
Well, I mean, a lot of that really had to do with the fact that they did the overseas game, right? They were in London, so that's why they were more or less just away so long. Now I know that they're going to try to highlight, even with no fans in the game. I think they're going to really try to highlight the new stadium, the new Vegas arena, and there's rumors that the Thursday night game, the first game of the year, or maybe the first weekend night game, they want to feature Tom Brady and the Bucks in Las Vegas versus the Raiders. So that's something to look forward to. Hopefully they can make that happen.
Oh yeah, so Ian Rappaport is um putting out the whole thing. So they putting out the flyer and everything for it because every time Ian Rappaport tweets, I get a notification for it. So yeah, the full release would be on Thursday at 8 p.m. So definitely, hopefully y'all in the chat here. I did have a few questions in the chat that we missed. Um, One of them was, should we fire Paul Guntner? That's what Salvatore Bruno said. Should we fire Paul Guntner?
I mean, I think that just like Derek Carr, Paul Gunther this is his make or break year, right? We have to say that, what, he didn't really have a lot of talent last year or the year before. So this is kind of, you have your defensive lineman, you got a new defensive line coach. We got some more talent at linebacker, which we haven't had in decades. We're getting some young cornerbacks. I know they were really high on a couple, like Isaiah Johnson from last year that was injured. So I think finally you're seeing talent on the defensive side. This is his year to perform. If he doesn't perform better than he did last year, if the defense doesn't produce more sacks, if the defense doesn't produce more turnovers. I could very much see the Raiders parting ways with Paul Guenther next year. But, we have to see them play. I mean, we haven't even started playing this year yet. They're certainly not going to fire him before the season. If they get out to a terrible start, maybe they fire it with they do have Marinelli on the staff. So if they start, 2-4 and their defense is a sieve, maybe they fire him midseason, but I don't think that they're going to do that. I think that they're going to give him one last shot with the Raiders with these, just like John Gruden got new offensive weapons, he got new defensive weapons. So, let's see what they can do with that. But they definitely are not getting rid of Paul Guenther. He's going to be the defensive coordinator starting week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to be the starting coordinator, not starting, but he's going to be the defensive coordinator going into week 1, going into the season. Yeah, I do think that they are going to fire him, but I think they're going to let him play out this whole year before they fire him. I don't see that they're going to fire him mid-season. I think after next offseason, if he doesn't, like you said, if he doesn't produce as far as the playmakers making plays on the field, getting turnovers, or be at least a top 15 defense or a top 10 defense at some sorts, and that's killing us in games, knowing that the offense is, say if the offense is going good, like say if the offense is going great, and that defense can't help us out knowing that we're scoring on the board, Paul Guenther is going to be gone.
Yeah, and that could happen in the middle of the season. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like it was curious that they brought Marinelli in and Paul Guenther stayed. Some people scratched their head at that. If he's in the building and their defense underperforms, Paul Guenther isn't going to finish the season. But 100% he's starting the season with them. And, I do think that they have better players than they did last year on the defensive side of the ball. They have nasty playmakers who want the ball. So let's get some turnovers. Let's get some sacks. And then Paul Guenther's defense is going to be fine. And he will continue to be the Raiders defensive coordinator.
And I think the Raiders defense is missing the swag, because our defense history, if you look at our history of great defensive teams that we were back in the day, it was all about swag. And I think we lack that as well. And swag doesn't mean just being cocky. It's just confidence. It's just confidence, that we could get to the quarterback, that we could all play, together, and it had that camaraderie on the field, and nobody's being confused about anything. Just play your game. Just know what you got to do. Do like Belichick says, do your job, and then you'll be fine.
I saw Washington Park saying Dennis Allen would be a good replacement. Al Davis would roll over in his grave if they hired Dennis Allen to be the replacement. I'm sorry, no, Dennis Allen wouldn't really make him roll over. That was what's his name that went to USC.
Lane Kiffin?
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I didn't really like Dennis Allen as a coach, but he is a good defensive coordinator. But, Gruden loves Marinelli too, man. So, I mean, the connection is there from way back. We'll see what happens. I'm confident. I mean, I'm very bullish on the Raiders right now. It's the offseason. The draft just happened. We're getting players that are better. So I'm confident right now that both sides of the ball are going to perform better in 2020.
I agree. And John Bailey says, do you think Maxx is going to get double teamed this year? I think so. I think he's going to get double teamed this year because they're going to go off last year's statistics. They're going to go off last year's production. They're going to think that he's a guy that you have to take out to get out of this defense to see if you could do better against this defense. But now knowing that we have so much depth at the defensive line position, if you double team Maxx Crosby, that opens up everything else on our D line and our linebackers, especially if we're blitzing. So if you want to go double team Maxx Crosby, so be it. But I know that what the Raiders brought in during the free agency and brought in through undrafted free agents or just the draft itself, yeah, I think they're going to double team Maxx Crosby. What you think, Eli?
I mean, yeah, Maxx Crosby's going to have to play this season as the marked man. I mean, he's the guy that led the team in sacks last year, big rookie year. Um, you know, I don't see Maxx Crosby having another 10 sack year. I'm sorry, I don't. Mostly because he's going to be focused on. And I think that his effort and his talent, and his motor really did allow him to kind of sneak up on the competition and overachieve last year. I think he's a very good defensive end. I love him on the team. I think he's starter quality. He's going to be a beneficial, he's going to produce and be a starting quality defensive end for the Raiders, but I don't see him being a super dynamo 10 to 14 sack guy next year. But that being said, we did beef up the line, and Nassib is a guy that we brought in that can get after the quarterback. He's not a 15 sack guy, 10 sack guy either, but a guy that can get after the quarterback, as well as Collins in the interior as well. And I do expect a bounce back of sorts, or a coming of age for Clelin Ferrell. I think that last year he just had a real rough time with the sickness. He lost all that weight. He started kind of putting it together towards the end of the season. A lot of people are talking about how he's really committing himself in the offseason, training with some pals. And I think that this year there might be a flip-flop in production from those two guys, but I think both are going to be starting quality defensive linemen and make this a pretty formidable defensive line. So in short, yes, I do think he's going to get double teamed, to be honest.
Yeah, I think just to answer the question, I definitely think we'll get double teamed. So, Fierce Raider 88 said, yeah, but if Max get double teamed, then that means everyone else should be stepping up, right?
In
Exactly.
theory,
In
yes, but I
theory,
mean,
that's what it's supposed to be like. Just like at the wide receiver position. Like if Julio Jones is getting double teamed, or if we have Brian Edwards, I didn't mean to say Julio Jones, but I mean he's just the first big wide receiver that came to mind. But if Brian Edwards gets double teamed, or Tyrell Williams gets double teamed, that means it opens up for Renfro, opens up for Ruggs, it opens up a lot of things. So it should open up for everyone else to get they due diligence on the field, knowing that Maxx Crosby is getting double teamed. Um, where does Morrow stand? Um, hmm.
I don't think he's not signed right now. I didn't think that he was terrible last year. He was certainly a depth guy. But again, with bringing in Nassib and Arden Key in the mix, I don't think there's really any room for him right now on that defensive end position, just right at the moment.
All right. So Garnett King said, "Do you think we'll have more turnovers on defense, like interceptions and fumbles, or improved, or with our improved defense? Who do you think will lead the team in turnovers on defense? Hashtag Raider Nation."
Who do I think will lead the team in turnovers? I think that the first answer is we damn well better, right? Like we better get more turnovers because this team needs to create more turnovers. I think this team creates more turnovers. Automatically, you're now looking at a team that can be a playoff team because they didn't do that for shit last year, right? Excuse my language, but they didn't. So I do think they're going to, with their focus on guys that really want to take the rock away on the outside and guys that can make plays and pressure the quarterback like Nassib and Collins on the defensive line, I do think you're going to see a lot more production from a takeaway standpoint. Who do I think is going to lead the team in takeaways? I am going to go ahead and say that I think it's going to be Demarius Randall. I think that he's going to take the starting free safety spot. And I think that he is going to be the beneficiary of a lot more pressure on the quarterback, a lot tighter coverage overall. And I think he is going to probably lead the team in interceptions and takeaways. What about you?
I'm gonna go with a safety, but I'm gonna go with Jonathan Abram. I think he's gonna do turnovers as if he could still be hard hitting, but I think he's gonna have a lot of fumbles this year. I think they're going to spark him up to go after the quarterback and get some sack fumbles, a few interceptions. But I think Jonathan Abram would definitely have a bounce back year. I think he might get comeback player of the year, in my personal opinion, if he can stay healthy, which I think he will. So I'll have to go with Jonathan Abram. I mean, for right now, just to see. As far as turnovers wise, I mean, a defensive lineman can lead the league in turnovers, but that's going to be a harder task than what a free safety can do. So free safety, you can put them
Yeah,
all over the place. So
I agree, man. I think that I honestly, I kind of always, I keep forgetting that Jonathan Abram was, only played one game. So, essentially, if he can, he looked like a starting safety last year. He looked like one in camp. He looked like one in the preseason. He looked like one before he got injured at the Denver game. So that guy looks like he can be a starting safety in the NFL. He looks like he brings some tenacity. If he can be a starting quality safety and allow, Eric Harris or Demarius Randall or whoever in that other safety spot, really, just be a pro and make a pretty solid safety group. I think that in itself is just going to cause more turnovers and just make the Raiders a better defense. So I think Abram is a X factor of this defense being a good defense or not. If he performs well, this defense performs well. If he struggles and he's not a starting defense, a starting quality, caliber safety, there's going to be some issues on the defensive back end.
All right, I just want to go up a little bit because I know I missed some comments here. Let me just go back up and see what we have here. Oh, so Fierce Raider says, "What happened to Deion Jordan? I thought he performed pretty well."
I think Deion Jordan's in the same boat as Morrow and even Key, where is there room for him? I think he performed well too. I love his story. It really kind of resonates with me personally, and I'm rooting for him, and I really liked him on the Raiders. Hopefully, I don't know if he's still signed this year. I don't know if he's still one of the 90 contracts. I have to go back and look. I would love to have him on the team just because he is, such a great story and he does work hard and he seems dedicated. But we need, just like we said, we need production. We need turnovers. We need sacks. We need production and great play from that defensive line. And, we're going to see who's going to give it to us.
Raider for Life says, "Do we have a good man to back up Trent Brown? Remember, we lost him for a few games." I think the John Simpson could definitely, help out with Trent Brown, knowing that, um, he could be for what I've seen and what I've heard, that John Simpson can play multiple positions on the offensive line, and I wouldn't mind, having him replace Trent Brown just because of injury. And we're not saying just because. But Trent Brown does he have to go down? We could probably have someone on the depth chart, but I think John Simpson could definitely fit into that as well, depending on what other undrafted free agents or who we already have on the depth chart that could replace him.
Well, I do think that Simpson's probably going to be slated more on the inside. I mean, in a pinch, perhaps he can slide out there. I know that Sharp was used quite a bit last year. And Denzel Good, I think, even was kind of moved around the offensive line, and he's a solid, kind of plug in and play player on the, on the offensive line. So, like you said, Trent Brown was out for a while. The Raiders' offensive line still performed pretty solid. So was Gabe Jackson. If the key is keeping those guys healthy, right? If the Raiders can stay healthy, on paper at least, they have a fantastic offensive line. So let's hope that happens.
Yeah, I can definitely agree there. So Garnett King says, "What do you think about going out and getting Cam Newton to compete with Mahomes and other QBs in the division, Raider Nation?" Um, I don't want Cam Newton coming to our division and backing up Patrick Mahomes. Absolutely not. I don't. I don't. I wouldn't want that to happen.
I think the question was, does he think we should bring him in to the Raiders?
To compete with Mahomes.
I
Oh,
think.
I don't know. I still don't think so. I still don't think so. Knowing that we already have Marcus Mariota, there's no fit for Cam Newton on his football team. Um, I wouldn't want Cam Newton because right now, if you do sign him, he could definitely be a distraction, and he does have a lot of issues with himself that he needs to figure out. That's why a team has not picked him up, and it's like sadly to say, the New England Patriots do need a quarterback, and they still didn't go out and get Cam Newton. So it's something there behind the scenes is the reason why no team is signing him. But I just don't want that extra baggage with the Raiders, knowing that Marcus Mariota is trying to bounce back from his career after being benched last year. Why bring in a guy like Cam Newton to mess up that camaraderie? No, because Cam Newton's by himself. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't think that that's I don't think it's going to happen because they already got their backup in Mariota, and Derek Carr is, is their starting quarterback. Let's not forget too that this offseason is going to be very different. And Derek Carr, knowing John Gruden's offense, this being his now uh, third year, I believe, in the offense. Finally, him just being so familiar with this offense is going to pay dividends against another quarterback that might not even really be that much better at this point in his career, to be honest with you. So no, I don't see that happening, and I don't really know if I would want that, to be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that either. And I just want to let you know if I miss any questions, please rewrite them because the chat is going by a little bit faster than what I expected. So I'm gonna just try to see if I could go through some on here on YouTube because for some reason it's not going as fast. Shout out to Key in the building. Key in the building. What's going on? What's going on with you? Get them on the field. Just give me 1 second here. Going through all the comments. They say they can't hear me. Rich had y'all can hear me, right? His recording is on level 7 and you're like at a level 3. I don't know why. I mean, I could definitely check why. My mic should be fine. I mean, I don't know why they saying that. But my camera should be good, right? It
I
should be
mean,
good.
I hear you fine on my end, so I'm not really sure, but
Okay, so let's go to Derek. He says our defense is going to play a lot better for the simple fact that our offense is going to play better. John Gruden like ball control, longer times of possessions that will have our defense wearing down the fourth quarter like they did, especially late in the season. Um,
yeah, I mean,
okay,
I totally agree, and that's exactly why John Gruden wants to line up three tight ends and pound the rock because he wants to control the clock. He wants to have the ball in the fourth quarter and take up that entire. He wants to take up the entire fourth quarter with one drive, and that does keep the teams like Kansas City and stuff like that and limits their potential to score 16, 20 touchdowns or whatever it is. So yeah, I do agree.
all right. So I did turn up my mic. I did turn up my mic a little bit
Woo!
more. Is louder now?
Oh, it's louder.
Oh, it's louder now. I just want to make sure. For everybody in the chat, is it louder now? I had to turn my gain up. I had to turn my gain up on my interface. Let me know. It just might be with YouTube. That is better. Okay, okay, okay. That's good. That's good. There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna just keep it at that volume. So they said they had a problem hearing me. What's going on, Keith? What's up, Keith? What's going on, man? Um, Larry Fleming says, "Here's a question for you." He said, "What's your prediction of the end of the season record going to be?" Now, Larry, hold that question for Thursday. Because once we get our schedule, then we could do the schedule predictions of what our record is going to be and how the Raiders is going to turn out as season record. So
Yeah, and
definitely hold that question for Thursday.
yeah, and sorry for the cop out, Larry, but I do think that the way the schedule's set up really allows you to kind of see, how difficult that schedule is going to be for you. If you end up playing, uh, I'm trying to think who they would play, like the Steelers in December and not, September, that's a little bit more difficult with the weather and stuff like that. So we're definitely going to go through game by game on the schedule when it comes out on Thursday, and we'll see who we'll give a off the cuff prediction of the wins and losses.
Yeah, so Chris says Carr and Mariota have same injury, and I don't really care much for Cam being a replacement. Carr needs someone that could challenge him for his job. That's when Marcus Mariota came in. I don't think Cam Newton would have came in and made it competition because Derek Carr he's a run first type of quarterback in my opinion. I think he could sling it, but I think he wouldn't give Derek Carr as much as a competition as Mariota will. That's just my personal opinion there. Um, Let me see. Any more questions? Any more questions? Much better on the sound. Okay, crystal clear. Much better. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What's going on, Damian Estrada? What's going on? I bet you they give us the toughest schedule again. Like I said, I think they're going to give us the. I think they're going to give us one of the toughest schedules. And they always do with the Raiders for some reason. Vincent says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to Vince. He says, "Do you think Maxx Crosby is going to break out like Joey Bosa?" Um, I don't think so. I don't think so. Knowing that we have so much depth on this defensive line, I don't think he. I mean, he can, but it depends on the matchup. It depends on the matchup and who he's going up against. So there's a lot of scenarios that can come into play and see who can he, who can he, dominate. Depends on a good offensive line or a great offensive line. You just don't know. I think he can. I think he has the potential to, but I think it's going to be like Pharrell that's going to have a spark this year besides Maxx Crosby. What you think, Eli?
Well, like I said, I kind of foresee Maxx Crosby having a sophomore slump and, having the first year to take on a lot more focus from the offense, a lot more double teams. He's not going to be the guy that kind of surprises you and, disrupts and gets 3 or 4 sacks. I was surprised. I think a lot of people were surprised the way he performed and overperformed last year. I don't see that happening again this year. But again, I do think that he's a quality defensive lineman, and I'm excited to see him perform. And if he can do that, even despite all the double teams, then the Raiders really did get a stud and a diamond in the rough with Maxx Crosby. I still love him either way, but I don't see him being a 10 sack guy next year.
All right, so J.R. Jones says, is Isaiah Crowell on the roster?
I don't believe he is.
I don't think he is either. I think they're going to go off his injury more than anything because I think he signed a 2-year deal with us, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was like a 2-year deal. Until he tore his Achilles and he couldn't play. So I really don't know if he's on the roster right now. If he is, it's going to be a tough time for him to try to be that number 2 running back, battling it out with Jalen Richard and probably some undrafted free agents. You just don't know who's going to come in and try to make a team. You just don't know with that. Let me see. Any other questions. No, he's not. So they say no, he's not on the roster. All right. So Salvatore says, who got the stronger arm, Carr or Mariota? Ruggs would benefit from. So technically, he's trying to say who has the stronger arm and what quarterback that Henry Ruggs would benefit from.
I mean, stronger arm. I think that Carr has a stronger arm, but you got to remember that with John Gruden's offense, this isn't a Jameis Winston drop back 7 steps and just chuck the ball down the field. It's not going to be that. It's never going to be that with John Gruden. So really, it's who's going to be able to be the most accurate quarterback within the offense. I think Derek Carr has a better arm than Marcus Mariota. I think that he's a better passer than Marcus Mariota, and he obviously knows the offense better than Marcus Mariota. So in pretty much every single phase, Derek Carr is a better player than Marcus Mariota for the Raiders this year. That's why Marcus Mariota is the backup.
And I could agree with you more. I think Derek Carr has the stronger arm, knowing that y'all have to remember that Marcus Mariota had problems with his hand and his throwing arm, about numbness going in and out of it. He had a lot of issues with that. So that kind of made his arm a little weaker than what it was when he first came out of Oregon. So y'all got to remember that injury really kind of gave Mariota a step back and made him miss a lot of games due to that because he couldn't feel nothing like from his thumb to his elbow at the time. And he was still trying to sling it, not feeling anything. And that's not really too good. Knowing that he got all his feeling back, I still feel like Derek Carr still has the better arm. And I think Derek Carr, I think Ruggs is going to benefit off Derek Carr. Only thing I could say that Derek Carr and Mariota have something different is scrambling ability. Marcus Mariota wouldn't mind scrambling and running around trying to make a play. And Carr has to get back to that where he was in 2016. So that's the only thing I think Mariota has over Carr. But until then, when it comes to throwing and passing, Carr has the better arm than Marcus Mariota.
Nailed it. Yeah, I totally agree.
So it's a lot of Mariota questions, but they said, do you think Mariota has the ability to win the starting job in preseason? I mean, it's preseason,
No.
so I think Mariota probably would get some starting time in preseason.
But he won't win the starting job. No, Marcus Mariota will not beat out Derek Carr for the starting job before the season. Derek Carr is going to be this, barring an injury in camp or in the preseason. Derek Carr will be the Raiders' starting quarterback week 1, no doubt about it. And probably, barring an injury, he will be the quarterback all year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Marcus Mariota is going to play in the preseason, but we all know who's going to be the starter going to week 1. Let me see. Let's see any more questions. Let's see. Do you see the Raiders trading for Aaron Rodgers at the end of the season? We already did that. We already said Aaron Rodgers is not coming. He's not wearing that silver and black. We already answered that. Should we sign a vet minimum? Meaning by like a positional player. I don't think we're looking at anybody in free agency at this moment. Do you think we're not looking at any free agencies? Do we? I don't think we're looking at any.
And at what position did he say?
It just says, should we sign a vet minimum? It don't say an actual position. So I mean, me personally, I don't think we're looking at any vets right now in free agency.
I mean, again, we have like 90 some players that might be on the roster. So we're pretty
Right.
full. I think that we're going to go ahead and start whittling that down once camps and things kind of start moving before we bring in anybody else. So I don't know what position in particular, but we're always going to be looking, like Maxx said, we're always going to be looking at every position to try to get better players. I think you're going to see that a lot more once the 53-man rosters need to get cut down. That's when you usually find some talent from other teams that could potentially fill holes here.
Yeah. And like I said, I would like to go. I would like to go get Logan Ryan, but he just went too much money at this moment.
Well, and also Logan Ryan really kind of makes his bread and butter at the slot position. And as of right now, say what you want with his production, but Joyner is slated as our number 1 slot corner. We just drafted Amik Roberts. So right now we kind of have our guys who we want to be our slot cornerbacks. I don't see them bringing in a guy who's going to be really expensive to play that position pretty much primarily.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Is Marshawn Lynch still on the roster? No, he's not. We see. I agree with Watts Raider. He's going to play dividends. Look at the stats, bro. Carr is way better. Stop playing. Look at Carr versus Mariota highlights. Oh, we all know that for a fact. What do you think about Jason Witten signing?
I love the Jason Witten signing. I mean, honestly, he's definitely an older vet, but man, I think that he, and I've said this a couple times, I think he's sneakily going to be one of the more productive in the red zone new players on this offense. I can see him being one of those guys that in the goal to go situations is going to benefit from a couple 2 to 3 yard touchdown passes from Derek Carr out of that 3 tight end offense that John Gruden wants to run. I can see him getting a couple 2 to 3 yard first down receptions off of that. I have a feeling he's going to play a crucial role in this offense, more so than some people think.
I could not agree with you more. I feel as though that Jason Witten is going to be a great blocking tight end as well, because he was always good as a good blocking tight end, but definitely red zone as well. Especially when you have a 2 tight end set, you're gonna see Waller and Jason Witten in that 2 tight end set, or probably a 3 tight end set, depending on how Foster Moreau comes back off his injury. You might have Nick O'Leary in there too that could catch the ball barehanded without gloves. So we have a lot of depth at tight end that you can play gadgets with, especially in that red zone. So yeah, I absolutely do love the actual Jason Witten signing. I just think he's bringing a lot of veteranship to that position, knowing that they have a lot of young tight ends that actually probably love looking up to him when they was kids, So it's definitely good to see that Jason Witten. It was kind of surprising that we got him, but I'm happy with the signing because it's only for 1 year. Renfro is going to have a great season because Ruggs' defense is going to have to keep a safety back. He's going to carve the defense this year. Everyone is going to benefit from the offense. Okay. Okay. So let me see. How do you rank teams in our division with the Chiefs being number one?
I think all the teams, like we said last year, I think all or last week, all the teams got better this offseason. Maybe the chart. I mean, it really depends on the Chargers, what you think of their quarterback position, the situation. Everyone though, like Denver got better, even Kansas City got better. I do think that the Raiders, with who they brought in the offseason, the performance of the team last year, just missing the playoffs. A couple things go our way. We're maybe looking at a playoff team last year. I think with that, coupled with the talent that we brought in on both sides of the ball, I think the Raiders might be number two, but they're still a long way from the Kansas City Chiefs, followed by the Broncos, and then the fourth team is going to be the Chargers. But it always seems like the Chargers kind of have.
They always find a way. They always find a way. And I just feel like ranking the Chiefs being number one, I still think we could be number two. Denver could be number three in Charges. But I can't really predict that right now. We probably could predict that once the schedule comes out and see where we could rank our division depending on what the schedule is. But at the same time, it's just every team got better. And this is why the AFC West is the best division in football. Hands down, because I don't see any other teams in their division that got better like we got better, like the Raiders got better. Even though the Chiefs are the Super Bowl champions, they got better. So it's just like if you got to play the AFC West this year, good luck to any other division that has to play us, because we're gonna be the toughest division in the AFC. That's just that's just my personal opinion. That's just how I see that. We're the toughest team, the toughest division in football.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that top to bottom, it's the best one.
All right, so Chris Martinez said, "You guys proving my point exactly, Derek." Okay, so that's not a question. Cool. Let me see. Let's see here. Do y'all see Cam Newton getting signed by the Raiders? We said that already, Damian Estrada. So no, we definitely don't see that happening. Maybe Logan Ryan. I don't think we're going after Logan Ryan either. That salary cap that he wants, guaranteed, we don't have the money for it. And like Eli said, we have a 90-something man roster. I don't think we need to add on any more players to the team right now until we get like the first couple of cuts or something.
Well, more importantly, I think that the position that he plays primarily, there's a logjam right now in that position at the slot cornerback. That's really where he would be playing for a lot more money than Joyner probably would be making. And so I don't think that you would go ahead and sign somebody at the nickel when you're hoping that Joyner can bounce back and you're hoping that Amik Roberts can step in and play there as well.
Yeah, Garnett King said it's 94 players on the roster.
Yeah,
I don't think we need any more players on the roster.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now we're going to work them down, and then when we can see where the holes are, then we're going to look for more players.
Right. And Juan says, do you think we'll start in IR when the season starts? Who are you talking about, Juan?
I think somebody was talking about it too. I think Foster Moreau, the tight end, might be out. I know that he had that really bad knee injury. I have to double check to see if he is going to be ready for the season to start. I thought he was, but if he's not, that's why I think there's 7 tight ends or something like that right now on the roster. So, there's going to be a lot of competition for that spot.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of competition for that spot. And I just don't know. Hopefully we wish him the best. He gets back 100% and, contribute to this team as much as possible. Chris Martinez says, who's the starting running back in your opinion? That's obvious. It's going to be Josh Jacobs. I don't know where you think you see any other running back coming in and trying to take Josh Jacobs' spot. We got him at number 24 for a reason in the first round, and he ended up putting up almost 1,200 yards rushing almost. Honestly, so we all know that Josh Jacobs is going to be the starting running back there. That's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Let me see. Let's talk about it. All right, so Keith said, are you guys looking to be a contender or this is a rebuilding year? I wouldn't say. Oh, you could go.
Oh no, yeah. Sorry to jump in, but I think that John Gruden's been consistently retooling his team, right? I wouldn't consider this a rebuilding year, but I certainly don't think that the Raiders are up there as a legitimate contender as we stand before the 2020 season. I think that this is a team that can and should fight for a playoff spot. I think they can, especially with that extra playoff spot added to each, conference. I think the Raiders have a good shot and a good team and a squad that can make the playoffs this year. That's their goal, obviously, and I think that they can do it. I think once the Raiders are in the playoffs, once you're in the playoffs, any given Sunday, right? But I don't think that they're a favorite and a contender at the moment, but I do think that they can make the playoffs this year with the roster they have.
Like like I wouldn't say contender or rebuilding. What I would say is this is a improvement year. I wouldn't say rebuild. I would say improvement year, going from what 4-12 to 7-9, and I think we got to take that next step. Is not really rebuilding; it's more of improving from those last 2 years. So that's what I see it as. And as far as a contender, I don't see it as a contender just yet. I want to see consistency from this team before I even call them a contender, because they could be great this upcoming year, and then next year the shit blows the fan. Excuse my language, but it hits the fan. So I don't want to say contender or rebuilding. I'll say it'll be an improvement year for what we had in the last couple of years. And I skipped over this, and she said that what role will Nelson Aguilar play this season?
Left
I'm
bench.
I'm going to be honest with you. Nelson Aguilar is going to be a special teams player. I,
Yeah,
that,
I don't even
I
know. I mean, I don't even know if he's going to be special teams player at this point. I mean, if the wide receivers that the Raiders brought in through the draft uh, perform at a high level, it might be difficult for Aguilar to even make the team this year. To be perfectly honest, I mean, if you let's go through the wide receivers right now. Obviously, there's Williams and Renfro from last year. You want to add Zay Jones.
so
Uh,
that's Aguilar, Tyra Williams,
Well, let's not even say, let's
Hunter
not even
Renfro.
add Aguilar yet. I mean, even without him, there's Zay Jones, there's Hunter Renfro, there's Tyrell Williams, and then you added through the draft, you added um, Ruggs and Brian Edwards.
Plus, you have then Keelan Doss came back and Aitman came back as
So,
well.
so that's your five wide receivers right there, even without Nelson Aguilar. So depending on how those younger players play and how some of the guys like Doss perform, it might be tough for Aguilar to make the team, but I see him being the fifth wide receiver on the squad. And, with a guy like Nelson Aguilar, that's not a really bad thing to have as your fifth wide receiver option, to be honest.
And he's fast. It's just that his problem was just the catching ability. He's fast and he could run routes, but that was just his problem in the catching ability. So, um, Raider Chap says Zay and Aguilar is going to get cut. That's what he's saying. But because I see that it's going faster on the YouTube than it is here, because I'm still going through the comments here. But Nelson Aguilar, absolutely, I think he's going to be a more of a special teams player. He's going to be kickoff and punt return, in my personal opinion. So, for Nelson Aguilar, if he could just get his hands together and if he could move up and help us out in some certain packages, I wouldn't mind that either. But I think more special teams would be anything for Nelson Aguilar. All right, so let's see what else we have here. Um, so Larry Fleming says, "How about the kicking competition? I forget the boy's name. Daniel Carr said needs to watch his position."
Well, I think they brought somebody in, an undrafted free agent from Utah, I believe, or Utah State. And, Carlson really, I think a couple of years ago, he looked promising. But last year, I think he missed some kicks, and I wasn't really, very impressed with his ability to win games and be a steady, you know, money in the bank kicker. I mean, what do you think?
Um, I think Daniel Carson is not a bad kicker. I just think Now he's got a new stadium. He don't have that old behind. I mean, I love the black hole. Don't get me wrong, but it was just not made for a kicker. It was not made for a kicker. But I mean, I think Daniel Carson can be a better kicker. I don't know what the other guy name was that's giving him the competition, but if you could come in and take the spot, then take the spot. It is the best kicker is going to go on the field. That's what John Gruden and Mike Mayock going to go with. They're going to whoever got the best kicker and the most consistent kicker, they're going to go with that.
The undrafted free agent from Utah State is.
Oh yeah, the undrafted free agent from Utah State. What is his name? We just
I'm
talked
trying to
about him on
find
the
it right
last.
now.
We just talked about him on the last show. Um,
And I think that it's going to be a camp battle. I do think that I don't think that he ends up actually being the. Is it
oh
Everly?
yeah, I think he said Eberly or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Eberly. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. So I think that he's just kind of coming in and as kind of a camp battle. I think Carlson's going to win out, but again, it's not a really strong position for the Raiders, to be honest, right now.
Right. So that's what I said. So like if he's going to come in and try to take his spot, take his spot. That's what it is. That's what the training camp is for. To have the best 53 men on the football field. No matter if it goes from kicker to punter to long snapper, they are the best 53 man roster that they went with.
Yeah, and Watts Raider. I mean, Eberle was a great kicker in college. We picked up two kickers in the draft a couple of years ago that were supposed to be the top kickers, a punter and kicker, respectively. Neither of them, really were good enough to stay on the team. So I totally agree that hey, he might be a talented kicker. I haven't seen him kick yet, so I just think that he's a guy to kind of push our current situation. We'll see what happens.
All right, so Paul Haven on Facebook says, "What grade do you give Mayock on the draft?" That's what Paul said.
Well, we graded the draft before, and I gave it a B plus. Like a B plus, and I think that you kind of echoed that as well. I think that there are definitely a couple reach picks. One being Taylor Muse was a total reach pick, but there was a couple diamonds in the rough in the later rounds too.
Yeah, and they said I hate giving draft grades until 3 years we hit precisely what we needed to hit. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That is a fact. Any other questions we have before we go into any of our other topics that we have? Because the chat is moving a little bit faster than what I expected on a Monday night. Maybe we should do it on a Monday night. It seems like everybody's here for some reason.
Monday nights are popping.
I know Monday nights are popping today. Oh, say he said, why not an A?
2 words: Taylor Muse.
Tanner Muse is the reason why it's not an A.
Yeah. And also Arnett potentially might have been a little bit of a reach as well. It's certainly not an A draft. It's not a bad draft. They hit all their needs, and I like a lot of the players, but it's not an A draft.
Yeah, it's definitely not an A draft. I'll give it a B or a B. I'll give it more of a B plus than just a regular B.
A high B, B plus. There you go.
All right. So, any more questions before we go back into our topics of the show? Because we wanted to, once the questions started flowing, we still have a whole lot of topics that we have. How does the cap and the picks look next year compared? That's what Raider for Life said. I don't know what the cap and the picks look like for next year. Not that I know.
We have first through. I think we only have one first round pick this year. That's weird. Coming in the next year, I should say. But I think we have a first, second, third, and fourth, and then I think a sixth and seventh. I believe. As far as the cap, a lot of that's going to change and fluctuate to who stays on the roster this year, who gets brought in on the cap for 2020.
Yeah, because knowing that we signed a lot of people in free agency that really took up most of our cap. Derek says, "Do you think we should draft it Lamb or Judy?"
I mean, this is the question we kind of went over in our draft, our draft recaps. We didn't. I thought they were going to draft Judy. I thought that he was kind of more, the route running guy for John Gruden. But now that they drafted Ruggs, I understand that they really love his explosiveness, and he's not just a fast guy. He's dynamic. He catches the ball, and he can really run routes. See, I think any of these three guys would have been great for the Raiders, and they got Ruggs, and I'm happy with Ruggs.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm the same way as well, Eli. Even no matter what receiver we got, um, they're going to fit the Raiders' offense. Would I wanted CeeDee Lamb? Yes. Did you want Jerry Judy? Yes. Did we think about Henry Ruggs going at 19 after we got another receiver? Hey, that was a part of our mock draft. So
Yeah.
we had those three in our first round regardless. So with that being said, I mean, I'm happy. I'm finally happy with the Ruggs pick. I wasn't really too satisfied during the draft. I wish I could put my reaction up there because I was not really big on Henry Ruggs because a lot of people would say they wasn't big on him either from a few other analysts that I've known. But hey, the guy is fast. Speed kills. They went the Al Davis route. That's exactly what they did. And once he gets out on that field, he's going to show you why he was the number 12 pick in the draft. So yeah, it's just going to go with that. The Mac trade is over. Back to normal one first. Yeah, Mac trade is over. Let's see who else we got here. Um,
I think there's some comments. What were some other topics that we wanted to kind of go over tonight? Because I think that these are mostly just kind of some comments on here.
yeah, it's just mainly comments. All right, so this is my question. This is my question, but it's according to RaiderRamble.com. How can the Raiders maximize Lynn Bowden all world talent? This is a big one.
Uh,
Because this is good. You can go
I
first
mean,
on this one. I have to think about it.
yeah, I mean, I think that John Gruden kind of went over it that he's going to play that, Mayock, he's going to play that joker position. So he's going to play running back. I think that everyone believes that he can play out of the running back position and carry the ball 5 to 10 times a game or whatever he's going to be asked to do and catch the ball out of the backfield. I'm sure that they're going to have some goal to go situations where perhaps he'd take some wildcat snaps. I think that might be a way that they can do some razzle dazzle. They might run him in some wildcat throughout the game, but I think that's how they're going to use him. They're gonna move him out, and they're going to put him out wide. They're going to play him out of the slot. They're going to move him around the offense and try to put him in matchups that favor him and the offense. So I guess the real thing to say is that Gruden has carte blanche with him. He's a talented football player, and they expect him to be able to contribute everywhere on offense.
And watch Raider. Only reason why I got it from Raider Ramble because Lynn Bowden can play so many multiple positions, and to try to maximize his talent, it's going to be hard for defenses to try to, prepare for him. See, he's such a gadget player, knowing that he's going to be, he's considered a running back, but he could do so much on an offense. So with his all-world talent, it just makes Lynn Bowden a defensive nightmare for defenses that think that he just considered just a running back. As far as his number in his depth chart name, Lynn Bowden Jr. running back, number 33. Yeah, of course. But if you put him in the slot, or you put him in a 4 wide receiver set, or you put him in a jet sweep, you could put him anywhere on the offense as a skill, and he would help us out in so many tremendous ways. That's why I had to really think about it, because knowing that I did do a breakdown of Lynn Bowden, I'm just so excited to see what gadgets or what offense that John Gruden is going to pull out of his hat with this guy and with the rest of this offense too. Because mind you, Henry Ruggs just can't play receiver too. He could probably play some running back coming off the jet sweeps or running the ball from the outside. So we have a lot of athleticism on our offense now, instead of just being just stagnant.
Yeah, there's some dynamic playmakers for sure, and yeah, I know John Gruden at this very moment is scheming up ways to get the ball in all those guys' hands. So there will be a plethora of ways that John Gruden's going to be able to utilize Bowden Jr. and Henry Ruggs the third.
Yeah, was Raider halfback passes. That's gonna be another one for us too, because he did throw the football in college, very well. So let me see. I'm gonna go for a few ones here that just to get a little bit. We did the Marcus Mariota, veteran. No, we did the Raiders for Aaron Rodgers. We did that. We got that out the way. Can Henry Ruggs revolutionize the Raiders' offense? Now,
Well, I mean, I think we just kind of talked about
we
that, right?
kind of talked. We kind of talked about that.
Yeah,
That's
I
why I
mean,
was looking at that. I was
of course.
kind of. I think he can revolutionize the offense. And help out. It did. I think he's going to help out to get everybody else open.
Dude, Watts Raider. I saw those videos when they drafted Ruggs, and I honestly almost shit my pants. Like those dunk videos were so sick. He is. He's a nasty wide receiver. I'm and that's the thing. He wasn't my first choice, but he's so explosive and such a great athlete. He's going to be so dynamic. I can't wait to watch him play. And he's going to bring just those vicious slam dunk, that mentality to the wide receiver position. Very excited.
Guy is a freak of nature, man, and I think he plays so hard because a lot of people don't know his background. Now, what I've looked on YouTube, they Alabama Christmas Tide Day YouTube channel had a little documentary on Henry Ruggs, from I think from the players to the pros or something like that. It was I forgot what it was called, and he is Henry Ruggs the third, but he wears that number three because of his best friend. And he wears that on his sleeve. This best friend should he said his best friend should be here in the NFL with him. And think about it is, he didn't even start out playing football. He was a basketball star at his high school. He didn't want to play football at all. But once he went out there and he learned how to play football at I think it was a sophomore or junior year in high school, it took off. He stopped playing basketball. He stopped playing basketball, and the athletic director was like, "Oh, you're a football player now.
Yeah.
You're a
Well,
football
I mean,
player
hey,
now." So
I'm glad that we got him.
yeah, and I'm glad that we got him too. So it was definitely great to see him get drafted by us. This I think we got this question too. Can the Raiders take a leap forward and catch up to the Kansas City Chiefs? It's
Yeah,
kind of a question that we kind of did that as well. So if y'all do have any more questions for us, please put them in the comments. Let us know what y'all think. Cause y'all definitely gave us some great questions tonight. There's definitely a lot of people. There's definitely a lot of people in both chats right now. We have 30 people on YouTube and on Facebook. Let's look on Facebook real quickly. Right now we have 21 on Facebook. So thank y'all for coming in, man. We really do appreciate it that y'all really showing y'all support here. Just to let y'all know that it will be a show, a special show on Thursday for the revealing of the schedule. Hopefully they get the Raiders out the way first because we're not trying to be up all night waiting for every other team. So
Well, from what I remember the last couple of years, those schedules get leaked before the presentation. We're going to have a pretty good idea of what the Raiders schedule is before 8 o'clock tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on Twitter and we'll see how that goes.
yeah, definitely keep an eye out on Twitter. If y'all get it before I get it, hey, send it to me. I would love for y'all to send it to us. That's fine by me. So what Ariel says we have so many offensive weapons. We could do multitude of things. Pick your poison. That's a fact.
Yeah. And that's what I think is going to be the cog that turns us into a playoff team. John Gruden has all these weapons now, and there's dynamic players that can turn his ball control plays that are 15 yards, 10 yards, 5 yards. They can turn those into bigger plays, and they can separate, and they can actually make this a more dynamic offense instead of the 5 yard passes going for 5 yards. Now they're going for 20 yards. Now they're going all the way to the house. So a lot of people will have a different opinion of the same plays that John Gruden called last year. They're just going to look way different because there's going to be faster and more explosive players running them.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Any more questions before we do our finals? Because we got like 10 minutes left. So let us know if y'all have any questions. Carm is a gamer, no hate, but until you win, you have more time to be playing around. Okay. Omar, I feel like this year could actually judge the team. I haven't the past 2 years, but having enough time to get at least in the playoffs. I can say that we did actually improved from the 4-12, improving to 7-9. So that's more wins. Number one, number two. If we could get more than 7 wins this year, that's another leap of consistency to be better. That's all it is.
I'm not here for 8 wins next year. It's playoffs or bust. And if they don't make the playoffs next year, there's going to be major changes with the coaching staff. Not John Gruden. John Gruden will be there, but there's going to be changes with the coaching staff. There'll be changes with the quarterback. There's going to be big changes next year if the Raiders do not make the playoffs. Their playoffs are bust. They, for all intents and purposes, should have been a playoff team last year, but they've reloaded. They have better depth. They have more explosion on offense and defense, more talent across the board. They should be a playoff team this year.
And a little bit more leadership on the defensive side. If you look at, Corey Littleton, he's kind of a veteran, but he's not like an old veteran, but he's a veteran. He's been there. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's been in the playoffs. He has that veteran experience. Bring it over at Nick Kowalski. Kowalski is kind of a veteran as well. So Presidential Trail says 10 or better. Watt says 10 games or bust. That's where I'm at with it. 10 games or bust. That's exactly, because that funny thing is that was my prediction last year for these Raiders was 10-6, ended up being 7-9. So with that being said, any final words that you have for this show, Eli, and anybody for in the chat?
No, I mean I'm excited to see how the schedule pans out. I don't think that it's going. It can't be a schedule like last year because we're not going to London and we have an actual stadium that we should, knock on wood, be ready to play in. Whether that's in front of fans or not, who knows? But everything should be good to go in Las Vegas. So we'll be in our new digs. I foresee some pretty good key primetime matchups. And another thing too, we'll see how the schedule pans out on Thursday. But there's talk of some Saturday games as well. So I don't know if that's something that they'll flex closer to when the season starts or if they're going to just put them right in the schedule now. But I think they're going to try to utilize Saturday since it really doesn't look like college football will be played this year.
And that's kind of upsetting to me because I love college football, man. I love college football.
It's upsetting that none of these sports are happening. I mean, there's a whole plethora of issues with, every single professional sport and all their leagues and, collegiate sports. It's a total bum out. So, hopefully everybody can continue to socially distance. We can get this thing under control and somebody can get a damn treatment and we can put this behind us.
Yeah, and I really hope that we could put this behind us as well. I want to thank everybody for being in the chat, knowing we having this hard pandemic where we talking Raiders as much as we can, knowing that the draft is over and we could just try to see what happens with this regular season. And now we'll figure out when the regular season will actually start because it's on Thursday. So Thursday, definitely be ready, be prepared. Make sure y'all come in and hang out with us once we find out the schedule. But Raiders for Life set is in gold, solid for the team. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He's a great fullback. I love fullbacks because that was my position playing back in the day. And I think there's a few other questions here before we go. How Carr is going to do the craps table? How you
I
gonna
don't
do it on a
know.
craps table? I don't know. I mean, it's
I have a feeling that Derek Carr is going to be far away from all the gambling in Las Vegas. He seems like a guy that probably doesn't party too hard, on the Vegas Strip. So I don't think you're gonna have to worry about that too much.
and you said the draft is going. What is the draft going to look like next year? There's no college football. That
That's a really that I mean that's something we're going to have to see. I mean, I saw some rumors that potentially some of the players that were going to be top draft picks next year might enter the supplemental draft this year if college football doesn't play. So that's something that we're going to have to figure out, and it's a kind of a fluid situation, unfortunately, that we don't have the answers to.
yeah, and it's been fun, y'all. It's been fun. It's been a wonderful show. Thank everybody for tuning in on Facebook. Thank everybody for tuning in on YouTube. If you are on Facebook and you have not subscribed to us on YouTube, please come over to YouTube and just put in the Spotlight Raiders Talk. If you're from YouTube and you do have a Facebook, same name is on Facebook. Please hit the like button there. The goal is to get to at least 1,000 likes on Facebook. So that is the goal since we already over 2,000 on this YouTube channel. And the goal is to get to 3K. So if this y'all first time being on the YouTube channel and the Facebook, we would suggest that y'all subscribe and hit the bell button and follow us on social media, which all the links will be in the description. Any last words before we head out?
I think the scheduled show starts at 8 o'clock on Thursday. I'm sure since it's the only game in town, they'll make a big to do about it. It'll be very long and drawn out, just like the draft. So it'll be something to watch.
Be something to watch, be something exciting to see, seeing what all of our teams and all of the Raider Nation, what our schedule is going to be. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Las Vegas Raiders live Q&A podcast. I am your host Darian. This is my co-host Eli, and we'll see y'all Thursday night at 8 p.m. And you do not want to miss that. Is go Raiders and just win, baby.